Welcome, everyone, to all the 2019 and 2020 Journalism for an Equitable Asia Award Ceremony. My name is Alicia, and from Asia Center, and I will be your MC for today's online award ceremony. Before we start the online award ceremony today, I would like to outline our standard webinar guidelines. First, the participants' microphones will be muted and your camera is disabled to reduce the internet distribution. Please ask any questions anytime and drop it in our Q&A function on Zoom and also in our chat box. Lastly, please also keep an eye on the chat box where the team will send updates to you. This also includes a link to the feedback survey, which will be sent at the end of today's session. This is an overview of today's program. Today's program will consist of welcoming remarks, the award ceremony, and the 2021 nominations. For participants watching, please sit back and enjoy our online award ceremony. Without any further ado, I would like to turn the floor to Nipuna Kumbalatara, Media and Communications Lead for Asia Oxfam International. Nipuna, the floor is yours.
Thank you. On behalf of Oxfam, I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the awarding ceremony of Journalism for an Equitable Asia Award. I see quite a few journalists, and I'm sure there are other people as well. Thank you very much for being here. I would have very much liked to meet you in person. In fact, that was a plan, but unfortunately, pandemic left us with no choice but to move online. However, that should not take away the spotlight from the great and dedicated work that you journalists have done around Asia. You've done great work calling for equality and justice, bringing issues to light that affect millions, and standing up against multiple power structures. And those power structures, let's remember, profit economically, socially, politically, and otherwise from the way they are. In this award, we had over 100 journalists took part, along with their editors. They are among the brave few who stand up against the powers that are. They highlight things that matter to people, whether it's ordinary people like you and me, or more importantly, people who are more sidelined the most. And as a convener of this awards program, I was very impressed by what I saw. I don't think impressed captures it. I was touched by what I read. Journalists wrote about how people didn't have enough food, water, or basic health care. You explored mental health and suicide, about how girl children were sold to labor or marriage because the families had no other options, about exploitation and workplace, about racial injustice, and about abuse of any vulnerable people. Now, this is exactly what we need more of. We need stronger voices against these injustices. And they are perpetuated by an inequality pandemic that's growing more than ever. And in many places, the mainstream narratives are dominated by the power structures that be. And with the pandemic, the space for us to talk about the big issues that challenge millions of Asians, whether we are discussing in our living rooms or decision rooms, it's shrinking more than ever. Thank you very much for your brave journalism. We need more effort from journalists, aspiring journalists, as well as citizens. Our hope is this award and the brilliant journalism of its participants shifts minds, policies, and action. We hope it inspires more people to stand up, write and create stories that favor equality, justice, and a better world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nipuna, for your I would now like to invite Dr. James Gomez, Asia Center's Regional Director, to speak his remarks. Dr. James, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Nipuna. Asia Center was very pleased to cooperate with Oxfam International in co-convening this award. Asia Center's expertise is around evidence-based research, in particular with issues related to freedom of expression. We have in particular been tracking the developments around SDG 16.10 around freedom of expression, access to information and privacy. And we have noted, since it was first implemented in 2015, especially in Asia, the SDG government struggled with making some progress on SDG 16.10. In fact, as we surveyed the yearly reports that came in for the SDGs and SDG 16.10 in particular, we noted since 2017 and 18, freedom of expression regressed. It regressed partly because of a slew of legislation that governments had introduced in the region, a lot of which around combating disinformation. As we turn the corner into this year, brought on by the onslaught of COVID-19, freedom of expression in the region actually regressed. And we know that you as journalists and the media companies you work with work now very hard in a difficult environment. And more so, this environment is complicated with business impacts arising from COVID-19. Hence, the very industry that you work in is also grappling with issues of sustainability. While the nominations were coming in, Oxfam International and Asia Center also jointly penned an opinion piece around the challenges journalists face in discussing inequality and poverty, very much the work that you do. And this was published in the Bangkok Post and very well received in terms of the number of engagement the article got, as well as the comments in response to the piece. So it is our great honor to have you here, the finalists, the audience, and to recognize the good work that you have, not only in putting forward and keeping journalism alive, quality journalism, but also, discussing issues related to inequality and poverty. So once again, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you, Dr. James, for your remarks. I would now like to invite Mustafa Talpour, Regional Advocacy and Campaigns Manager Asia of Oxfam International, to speak your remarks. Mustafa, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alicia. I would like to thank Asia Center for this very hard work and putting this project really realize, taking a lot of effort since 1 year. I know I have been in touch with my colleague Nipuna, who was behind this whole idea, and we worked together to, actually we had a dream that we work with the media colleagues who are in the field writing a great stories, but also facing a lot of challenges. And the idea was that we have an strategic engagement and partnership with media colleagues across the Asia to learning, sharing, encouraging, and building, providing a support that we can, both knowledge support that Oxfam is engaged in multiple issues, but also learning from the journalists to enrich our own understanding that what really matters for the people. So this really took a lot of time to realize that idea into practice. And I also echo what Nipuna said. Um, we wish that we could have met face to face and have had discussed all these issues and talked more, but we couldn't. But I hope in future uh, we will get through this pandemic and we'll have many opportunities to connect, to meet, and share our thoughts and our great stories and very inspirational work that you all do. Um, you see, on one hand, you all observe every day, and we all see that on one hand, what we call inequality, I will define a bit what we mean by it. But in a nutshell, the difference between rich and poor, whether income or wealth, is on rise since last 20, 30 years across Asia in all the countries, within countries and among countries. Uh, but we see that on the other hand, the governments that we all select, rather looking into that very fundamental issue, very fundamental development challenge of our age, uh, rather addressing it, rather clamping down on inequality and impoverishment and hunger and poverty and discrimination and violence against women, what actually governments are doing, they're clamping on democracy, muting media voices, reducing spaces of civil society where people can come together and talk. So these are two kind of a different extremes. And in amid of that, I think these voices, the inspirational stories that you create, have effect on many million people across Asia to shaping the public narrative and opinion. So, but when it is combined, when these efforts we put together in Asia, from Philippines to Tajikistan to Pakistan, every corner of the Asia, that gives us an encouragement. It connects us all together. That this fight for just and fair Asia isn't being fought in isolation, but there are many people in different places who are part of this wider struggle. So when we started this campaign on inequality, if we put into a very simple terms what we mean by it, we mean that there are two extremes of everything. So there are schools that serving a rich elites, they live in ghettos, they get all better education and access to modern gadgets and technology and internet, and there are millions of kids uh, in Asia that do not have access to very simple learning, uh, uh, access to learning, and majority of them, the girls, are left behind. So these unfortunate kids do not have a future opportunity to compete in labor market and find a decent work. Similarly, if you look in every country, this is a reality that there are private hospitals built for a few rich who can afford a high quality medical care. While if we see on other extreme, there are still women burdened with fetching the water and firewood, collecting firewood, do not have basic, very basic medical care. This pandemic has exposed it further. That who is affected much. Then there are huge differences in people finding decent work. You have white collar, highly educated people who got access to technology, the know-how, but there are people who are in the informal, pushed into the informal work. Again, the concentration of the women, uh, don't even have the contracts, don't have paid maternity leaves. They do not have the right to unionize, to demand their equal rights. And these are the people who are most pushed. The pandemic has pushed them and the down, and they struggle every day to get out of poverty. Um, Not many people have decent income. Inequality also mean that tiny few people have control and access to the natural resources. The companies control the land, the water, or this grabbing is continuing, denying the people who really depend their livelihood on these resources, denying them the access to the food, the people who produce the food. So we'll find malnourished kids in the farming families, uh, while the few rich companies, the individuals, um, they occupy and control these resources that historically has been people's control. And then there is a huge discrimination through laws, social beliefs, economic systems, or political regimes. They perpetuate and create all these differences. Um, our social norms and beliefs also create differences that are based on the gender. Um, but in last 30, 40 years, Asia really has been the engine of economic growth. So you have heard words, this is an Asian century, economic growth in Asia, in China, in Indonesia, in Thailand, Vietnam, India, many countries across Asia are having created a new wealth. Billions of dollars have been added into the new wealth. But the question mark always comes in how that wealth or the new money is being distributed, who really is benefiting. So this is not the number that matters, that economy in Indonesia, for example, growing 8%, or Vietnam growing, or economy in India is growing at this much percentage. But I think the important question, or the right question, is to ask where's that where that growth is really going, who is getting that money. So in this campaign, in this work, we also produce some numbers. So a year ago, because sometimes the numbers and the statistics also matter and hit the media headlines, along with the human stories and the emotions. So last year, what we looked in Asia and Pacific, the top 1% people hold double the wealth than 1.6 billion people across the Asia. So this is the level of the wealth inequality. And in just 1 year, from 2018 to 2019, in 1 year, Asia and Pacific region added 110 billionaires, almost a billionaire after every 3 days that Asia added. Um, and then last year also, the number of billionaires in Asia and Pacific region surpassed any other region in the world. Initially, there were more billionaires, the people having more than $1 billion wealth, were high in North America and Europe. But then Asia last year, in 18, Asia has taken over. Asia has more billionaires than any other region. China, India, of course, two rich countries in Asia and rapidly growing economies, have added more billionaires than any other country in 1 year. China added 72, India added 54. But also other countries are not behind. So Thailand is into that race. Vietnam is also into that race to have more billionaires. So this billionaires' wealth is along with the millions of people who are impoverished, who are living at $1, $2 a day. And there are estimates that this COVID pandemic might aid more than 350 million more people into the poverty in Asia and Pacific region. So this is the story of inequality. We also calculated a countrywide few. I just quote one or two. I'm not taking much of your time. but 30 rich people in Thailand own 10 times more wealth than bottom 50% of the population. So say if the Thai population is 70 million, only 30 people have 10 times more wealth than 35 million people, Thai people. Similarly, 119 rich people in India own 3 times more wealth than bottom 50% people. So over 600 million people have less wealth than the 119 people, just 119 people in India. So is in Indonesia and China and other countries. So then this year, we also looked how these governments are actually responding. So there's a lot of talk. There's a Sustainable Development Goal 10 to reduce these income differences, but also end the gender differences. So we looked whether governments are serious. Are they putting any efforts into that to reduce inequality or not? And so there are three main things that has a proven contribution to reducing these gaps. So one is social spending more money on education, health, and social protection. Number two is the progressive taxation. So the rich people pay more, get more money from the rich people through taxation, and spend on social protection, health, and education of the poor people. And then the labor market reform, so people have decent wages, the union rights. So none of the country from Asia Pacific is on the top 10 on social spending. However, if we look at the 4 countries from Asia and Pacific are in the bottom 10 countries with social spending. So Laopedia, Timor-Leste, India, Nepal, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka. Okay, sorry, 6 countries. So we have 10 countries at bottom 10 with lower social spending. The countries that are spending very less money on education, health, and social protection. Out of those 10, 6 are in Asia Pacific. While as I told you, the Asia Pacific are the countries that are growing high. So I mean, amid of that, I don't want to take much of time to go into. I hope we'll get more chance and opportunities to talk. But there is a lot of work that we can collectively do to expose, build a narrative, create a public opinion, expose the people that are manipulating the political and economic system to get more wealth and money on the cost of the millions people. All the money and wealth that these people get is not really merited. It's not through the efforts that the businesses do. It is actually finding the manipulating the laws, political systems, what is called a crony capitalism. So people use the connections, political connections, or use the power of money to find the routes to get more money, control over more the resources and the more the power. So I hope this partnership, this friendship will continue in the future, and I will try that we the foundations that Nipuna has laid and the colleagues in Asia Center have put a lot of efforts. Along with all of your efforts, I will try and make sure that we continue this journey and keep writing on these issues and sharing and encouraging ourselves so that we can really make this a political agenda in the Asia and Pacific. So inequality is not an isolated issue, but it comes in every political opportunity or discussion or event that happens. And we won't let these political meetings to not be talking on these very critical, important issue. And I wish you a success of this this ceremony and this award, and the journalists congratulate the colleagues journalists who got these best awards. But this is not the end of it, and others who didn't get it, we will be continue working, and I hope there is an announcement for the next award in March, but there will be more chance and opportunities to work together. Thank you very much again. Over, Alicia, back to you.
Thank you very much, Mustafa, for your remarks. I would like to also announce that we are live on Facebook right now on Asia Center. I would like to ask for those who are attending, please feel free to share the live stream through your networks. And now I would like to invite judges to speak their remarks regarding this year's nominations process. I would like to invite Dr. Chanansara Oranop na Ayutthaya, Lecturer of Communication Arts and Media Studies of Graduate School of Communication Arts and Management Innovation of NIDA, to speak your remarks. Dr. Chanansara, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And good afternoon, our delegates from many countries. First of all, I would like to congratulate all of the top 10 finalists who have shared and advocate for equality in Asia through their articles. I feel very honored to be one of the judges of this award. During the screening process, other judges and I read and was very impressed with all of the nominated articles of 36 journalists from 7 countries, namely Bangladesh, Malaysia, Myanmar, Pakistan, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. All of them reveal the social issues of inequality in their own countries and how this inequality affects those people. So let's see what the common issues among the 7 countries through this word cloud. Could you please show up the word cloud that I give you? This word cloud I have created from the title of nominated articles. You may see that most articles disclose the problems of inequality among various groups of people, namely the poor, women, communities, and also advocate for the rights of these people. They also expose the issues about violence among women and the poor. Moreover, they review the problems of water and land resources discrimination. So we are very impressed with all of the topics that you have touched up in your articles. And in the screening process, all judges consider seriously and discuss on the relevance to the theme of the award and the relevance to the society in your own countries. And also ask some kind of question for instance, does the article advocate for the more equitable society, or is the article well researched and evidence-based or not? That kind of question that we discuss together and they come up with the final results. And we are going to award today. No matter who are going to be awarded in this event, all of your articles are most valuable for the people who have encountered the inequality, and your writing speaks out louder to the public and also the policymaker. So I encourage all of you to continue working and writing to build the public's understanding and also engaging them to support for equality, human rights, and sustainability, especially during the crisis of COVID-19, where discrimination and inequality become more vivid and problematic. So thank you. And once again, congratulations, all of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chanansara, for your remarks. I would now like to invite Vishnu T. Hangoro, the Executive Director of the Tambore Institute, to speak your remarks. Vishnu, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alisa. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, thank you also the opportunity to give a brief remark at this event. Yeah, I speak rather different, but actually the substance rather same with Dr. Chanantara. I think, yeah. We are the judge that work together at this event. Yeah, being a judge in an international competitions is a great honor. In particular, the competition is organized by reputable international institutions such as Oxfam International and Asia Center. Even though the world organizer mentions that the 2019-2020 journalism for an Equitable Asia Award is aiming at recognizing journalists who write on inequality and poverty issues in Asia. For me, this event has a much more important meaning. In the midst of major changes in the world of journalism, in which the current conditions of the media is experiencing the worst period in history, awarding the good works of journalism is one of the efforts to support and sustain the important role of journalists. I still believe that until now, people cannot imagine what would happen if journalists do not exist anymore in our world. Until now, journalism is still a high risk job. Every year, we witness a high rate of murder and violence against journalists linked to their work. Therefore, giving awards to the good journalists is not merely a recognition of their work, that good journalism works, but it also builds a public awareness about the importance of journalism works in fulfilling public's right to know, particularly in the global issues happening in Asia that are related to inequality, as just mentioned by Mr. Mustafa Talpu in his remarks. During the judging process, I and other judges read the nominated work of Asian journalists. Such works came from the Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, Myanmar, and other countries. During this process, I was impressed the high quality of such work, of such it was not easy like works that violence against the minority. To
Have we lost Vishnu?
Vishnu, we cannot hear you anymore.
I repeat. Uh, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you, Vishnu.
Okay, I can. Yeah, I would like to continue. Yeah,
Yes, please.
interestingly, even though the nominated journalists, okay, wrote down the facts happening in their respective countries, I felt that this writing seemed to happen in my country too. It is very possible if other readers from my neighboring countries in Asia have experienced the same thing. This signifies that basically journalists in Asia face similar issues to be written. Poverty and injustice in most countries are still common issues that need to be addressed. Journalists have the same role to voice the marginalized and victims of injustice. Although it is not easy to choose the best among the good works of the nominations, as a judge, I am satisfied with the final decisions of the entire judge. The selected works are best of the best and deserve an award provided by the organizer. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the award recipients. Likewise, for the nominees who have not won, I praise your capacity as good journalists who have concerns about important issues in Asia. To Oxfam International and Asia Center, I would like to thank you for inviting me as one of the judges this award. I really appreciate your effort and also congratulate you and your successful effort in the midst of this difficult time of this COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you. Okay, I return the floor to you, Alisa.
Thank you, Vishnu, for your remarks. And now we will commence the award ceremony. I will be inviting our finalists to speak their remarks and share with us their stories on their written pieces. In alphabetical order, first, we will have Anna Lawatana Trakul of Prachatai English. Sadly, Anna cannot attend with us today. However, she has sent us a video clip that we will now play. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Anna and I'm a reporter for Prachatai English. In November of 2019, I wrote a story about a young girl in Chiang Rai who was going to be forced to marry a 50-year-old man. And in writing this story, I wanted to tell the story of one of the many types of violence that's committed against girls and young women in Thailand and the causes of such violence. And also to show how important it is that we educate children about their rights. As a journalist, I hope that the work that I do will help shed some light on the issue of child marriage in Thailand and contribute to raising awareness about such issues and about issues of gender-based violence in the hope that no one will ever have to face such a situation ever again. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for sending your remarks to us. Next, we will have Banani Malik of the Daily Observer. Banani, the floor is yours for you to speak your remarks. Banani, may I remind you to please unmute your microphone? Thank you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I want to tell the motivation behind my story, I would like to convey my heartfelt thanks to the Asia Centre and Oxfam in Asia for offering me such a rare opportunity to express my views. Today, I'm participating in a very special event and its organizers have played a significant role to shape my life while providing enormous inspiration to move forward. Once again, I offer my profound gratitude to give me an opportunity to share my story in this big platform. It was 1988 when I was a little girl, and we were living in a small city in Khulna, which is situated at southwest of Bangladesh. One night, my mother, Indrani Mollik, who was an actress of Khulna Radio Center and a cultural activist, was coming back from a stage show. That night, she was abducted, but she was fortunately saved with the help of a few local people. The next day, all the local newspaper covers the news, but it was fabricated as if she had been raped. That fake news has branded her with a false stigma, which she would carry for the rest of her life. We sought help from the law enforcement agencies, but we were denied justice because the man who abducted my mother was politically very powerful. I had closely observed how such injustice and unequal treatment and social stigma can destroy a strong family bond. Silent separation between a husband and wife, always quarreling even for a silly matter. uncertain future of the children, and etc. The entire family completely got shattered and doomed, except me, who managed to get education and become today's one and only. I think this incident had completely transformed me. And within me, I was seeking an answer to such social discrimination. I started to realize that in our society, justice or equal treatment is not given. They are earned through hard work, constantly speaking out against injustice. I, however, find to be a moral obligation to be the voice of the voiceless. My story is about women victims of climate change. I try to portray sufferings and ordeals of this community through my news reports and write-up. Climate refugees by the thousands who once were self-sufficient at their respective villages have become compelled to migrate. Most of them are being thrown into the city slums. These victims are not responsible for causing climate disasters, but are being forced to have the dire consequences of it. One of these victims of cruel fate is Saleha Khatun, Tapushi, Shepali, who once used to earn money for selling vegetables and helping family with their extra income. Now the same women have turned into maid servants. Many also turns into hawkers or vendors. Tapushi, once a housewife, turned into a state beggar. These victims face inequality at every phase in their life. They don't have sufficient drinking water, sanitation facilities, reproductive health, hygiene management, education, and other related services. These women are not educated, not skilled enough, so they cannot march with the mainstream of the people like us unless we provide extra facilities to them. This unfair and unequal treatment of female climate change victims in our big cities must be statistically addressed from pure humanitarian and patriotic viewpoints. Therefore, our government and responsible stakeholders must provide special opportunities and services to these climate victims, both in our major cities as well as in the affected areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Banani, for your remarks. Next, for the next finalist, we have Didem Tali of New Narrative. Didem, I would like to hand the floor to you.
Hi, thanks for having me here today. My story that was nominated to this award followed two teenage sisters, I believe aged 14 and 16, back in when I reported. And they were sold into human trafficking by their own mother. And this was one of the hardest stories of my career. And it is the stories of those girls is something that I will carry to my grave. And after my story was published, much to my regret, I couldn't track these girls anymore. I completely lost touch with them. I don't know what they're doing right now. And unfortunately, given their precarious circumstances, this is not very uncommon. And there are right now over 40 million people who are victims of modern slavery. And this means 1 in 200 people in the world, 1 in 200 laborers are slaves, modern day slaves. And this means that realistically, every day we consume something in our day-to-day life that is probably manufactured or produced by these slaves. And unsurprisingly, the overwhelming majority of these victims are women and girls from the global south. And right now, as we are all connecting from our homes, their circumstances are more difficult than ever. They're probably trapped in some even harsher places and even harsher circumstances. And especially these days, I still think of these young women a lot. And as we were saying earlier on, I don't have access to any research or statistics, but if I had to take a guess, I would probably say that this year that number 40 million is probably gonna be on the rise. So I would like to thank you for recognizing the importance and urgency of a situation as such by nominating me to this award as a finalist. Thank you.
Thank you, Didem, for your remarks. For the next finalist, we have Gaea, Katreena, Cabico. I would like to invite you to the floor to speak your remarks.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so good afternoon. I am Gaea, a reporter for Philster.com in Manila. My work is focused on environmental issues examined through the lens of human rights and social inequality. So over the weekend, I was in touch with one of the residents of Sitio 15 in Taliptip. They eventually left the sandbar they called home last month after years of fighting for their right to be given a relocation site where they would be assured of livelihood, ideally still from the sea. So this resident, Ate Shirley, she told me that although their houses are now made of concrete, their homes used to stand on stilts. Their lives have become more difficult. Food was never a problem then, but now it is. The men of their small community now have to spend more money on gasoline for their boats to be able to fish and sell their catch to the market. So whenever people talk about this planned airport project, they would often say how it will decongest the country's main airport, how it helped boost the country's tourism industry, and how it will generate hundreds of thousands of jobs. But the stories of Ate Shirley and other Taliptip residents, the people who sacrificed the most for the project to push through, were often unheard. So I believe that there's a need to elevate the marginalized instead of giving a bigger platform to those who are already powerful, such as government officials and big businesses. The public needs to hear their stories and understand their concerns that are overshadowed by promise of development and better lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gaia, for your remarks. For the next finalist, I would like to invite Jessica Bartolome and Donabel Magzino to speak your remarks.
Good day, everyone. Before anything else, we would like to thank Asia Centre and Oxfam Asia for recognizing the story of rice farmers in the Philippines who braved the previous El Nino that affected the region last year before we were all hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. We are really grateful that our feature, A Very Long Summer, became one of the finalists for the 2019 Journalism for an Equitable Asia Award. It is very heartwarming that it reached a wider audience beyond the Philippines because we believe that the Filipino farmer's story is worth telling and worthy of being discussed not just every time there's an El Nino or other calamities. In writing this story, we aim to raise awareness of what farmers have to go through, the lives they lead, and the dreams they have. We understood that we had to delve into what we can do to make farming more sustainable for those who are engaged in it, to ensure that their rights are not being trampled on, and to come up with policies and changes that will level the playing field for farmers.
The rice farmers we met in the province of Rizal are not just battling with climate change, they are lamenting the low farm gate prices and the influx of imported rice. They are an aging sector in our country. The youth are being discouraged to make farming a livelihood. It's a cup their parents wish to be taken away from them. We have to use our platform to tell the public why this is so, to amplify their calls, and to convince policymakers to institutionalize meaningful changes. With that, we are honored that our story has come this far, serving as a window to the struggles of the Filipino farmers. On behalf of GMA News Online, we thank Asia Center and Oxfam in Asia.
Thank you, Jessica and Donabel, for your remarks. For the next finalist, I would like to invite Nguyen Thi Hao and Do Hoang Nguyen of the Vietnam Investment Review to speak your remarks. Thank you.
I think you need to unmute yourselves. We can't hear you.
We still can't hear you. Sorry, we still can't hear you. Are you able to turn on your audio?
Nasha.
Okay, in the meantime, we will move to the next finalist and then we will come back to you. For the next finalist, we have Nacha Tantivitaya Pitak of Pasha Thai. I would like to invite you to the floor and speak your remarks.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nacha from Pasha Thai, from Thailand. I'm interested in equality issue. After reclaim forest policy by the junta Prayut Chan-o-cha, there were reports about villagers who got arrested from accusations of living in national forest or reserve forest area. And the number of those who got arrested was increasingly significantly. Without land rights was a key of inequality. Ban Sabwai case in Chayapum province, in my report, was just one of several cases that villagers who live in their heritage land from generation to generation were charged by the government officials. This caused a lot for them in terms of lawsuit cases, and some of them were in jail. These were the result of the law and policy that injustice and don't understand about community life. And I hope my work will reveal some bad from Junta Prayut Chan-o-cha. Thank you.
Thank you, Natra, for your remarks. I would like to return to Do Huang Wine and okay. No problem, okay. So for now, for the next finalist, I would like to invite Partha Shankar Saha of Prothom Alo to speak your remarks.
Alisa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. May I start?
Yes, you may start.
Okay. We'll start now. Do hang on me. Alicia?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Partha Shankar Saha. I work for Prothom Alo. It's the largest Bengali daily in Bangladesh. But we have English version, English online also. Anyway, now about my report. I reported on income or disparity, huge disparity between cities and villages in Bangladesh. And there, basically, can you hear me, Alicia?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I presented 3 or more cases in Chittagong hill tracts and coastal areas of Bangladesh, and these areas are called hard to reach areas. So in Chittagong hill tracts, a woman, she has to spend more than 2 hours to collect 3 or 4 liters water every day. But if you calculate the time and energy she spent, it cost huge money. But in Dhaka city, one can get 1,000 liters of water, city dealers or capital dealers, at the cost of 12 taka only. So we see it's a huge disparity. That was the focus point of my story, and I presented some economic terms, economic theory to express the story, and it is published this year, and our government officials, the
Partha, we cannot hear you anymore.
I think I should conclude now. I'd like to congratulate my fellow winners and you, Alicia, you and other participants, and also my colleagues who actually give me inspiration to do this. And I also can I should remember the role of my online colleagues, my line manager at that time, Shariful Islam Bhuiya, and others. Thank you, Alicia, for giving me time.
Thank you, Partha, for your remarks. I would now like to return the floor to Do Huang Wine and Nguyen Thi Hao to speak your remarks.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, first, thank you very much, Elisa, for introducing us. And we also like to express our great thanks to Oxfam and Asia Center for this meaningful award. Yes, my name is Nguyễn Thị Hảo, and this is Đỗ Hoàng Oanh. We are from Vietnam, and we are lucky enough to have the article Women Power Riding High, in the ethnic minority communities. Yeah, this is one of our 3 articles joining the award. In this article, we mentioned about the effort of women, particularly the ethnic women. They have strived a lot to create new values for themselves as well as for the other women in their community. Actually, as a developing country, Vietnam has 54 ethnic groups, and 53 out of these are ethnic minority groups, and they scatter they live mostly in rural areas and marginalized areas, where they have few chance to access the modern life as well as to the modern new life. Yes, so there are a lot of old things and old thoughts in which they priority man to women. Yes, but these women, the women we mentioned in our article, have effort a lot. They create a lot of job for themselves, for the other women, and they also raise their voice to gain the right in administering money, as well as to develop biology tourism. Yes, these are some cases in our article. And once again, thank you very much for our time today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your remarks, Nguyen Thi Hao and Do Hong Wine. For the next finalist, we have Sarah B. Hayder. I would like to invite Sarah to speak your remarks now.
I'm sorry, my internet connection is not very stable, so I had to turn the video off. I hope that's all right.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So first, I would like to thank Oxfam and Asia Center for nominating my article. I have been a journalist for the past 7 years, during which I mainly covered women's issues in Pakistan. So this article was also related as I wrote about how women's cheap and free labor is sustaining a sexist economic system. In my country, we have a highly patriarchal society, and over here, it is a norm for women to render care work such as cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the elderly, and sometimes fetching water in rural areas. And this kind of work, it requires a lot of hard work, but unfortunately, it is neither acknowledged nor compensated. And even when it comes to working women, they are either underpaid or even, and they have to render care work at home alongside with their jobs, which I think is unfair. And there is no value for women's unpaid care work, and it is just seen as a duty that a woman must perform. Therefore, I thought it was very important to highlight this issue because people in my country do not see this as a problem to begin with. And as the report said that inequality has gone out of control, I think it certainly holds true for a country like Pakistan, especially when you see it from a gender-based perspective. So, and I really hope that a lot of people read this article, because it was not only informative and statistically supported, but I also think it contains a very important message, and it should reach as many people as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for your remarks. For the next finalist, we have Tanzil Hassan of Dawn Media Group. I would like to invite you to speak your remarks now.
Hello. Can you hear me, Alicia?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much. Suicide remains a growing yet silent problem in Pakistan because of the stigma attached to it in particular and mental illnesses in general. Unfortunately, mental health care is a widely ignored subject in Pakistan, and the country literally allocates peanuts in its meager health budget. If it is not enough to ring alarm bells, then let me add you here that both suicide and deliberate self-harm are illegal acts under the Pakistani law, which is punishable with a jail term or financial penalty. Hence, it is not surprising that most of the suicide cases in the country are not reported, making the available statistics highly underestimated. Despite lack of official data, high incidence of suicide is observed among women, members of marginalized communities such as those living in Tharparkar, and minority, particularly Hindus. According to the data released by Sindh Police, nearly 1,287 people died of suicide in the province of Sindh alone during the past 5 years, of which 586 were women. Due to the dearth of psychiatrists in the country, particularly in rural areas, mental health care remains pricey, inaccessible, and out of question for a vast majority living in the country. Some of the apparent reasons behind suicide are poverty, unemployment, unhappy marriages, domestic abuse, drug addiction, and lack of mental health care. The story, Why Are More Pakistanis Committing Suicide, highlights the hush-hush problem of suicide in the country and inequality in access to mental health care. It aims to decriminalize attempted suicide in the country, raise awareness about mental illnesses, mental health, and educate people about how to help themselves or a loved one in need, and provide them with the options of free mental health helpline where they can seek help anonymously. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanzil, for your remarks. And now, for the moment that we have all been anticipating, I will be announcing the top 3 prize winners shortly. Thank you to all the finalists and all the journalists who have submitted their entries for participating in this year's nominations and who worked tirelessly to shine a light on issues of gender inequality, income inequality, racism, and other forms of injustice. Thank you. And now, coming into the 3rd place, we have Nacha Tantivi Taya Pitak of Pracha Thai. I would like to invite you to the floor to speak your remarks and accepting your prize. Congratulations.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm appreciate for this. I don't know how to say. I will be a reporter and tell the story about inequality from now on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nacha. And now for 2nd place, we have Jessica Bartolobi and Donabelle Mazzino of GMA News Online. Congratulations. I would like to invite you both to speak on your remarks and say a few words for us.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you very much. This is such an honor. Firstly, would like to thank our editor-in-chief, J. Mark Tardicilia, for guiding us through the production of this special report, and the rest of GMA News Online for their support. We dedicate this to the farmers who welcomed us into their community, into their homes for 5 months. They were very open when they shared their lives and their struggles with us, and we hope that we did it justice. And last but not the least, thank you Asia Center and Oxfam Asia for recognizing the importance of this story, not just for the community of farmers in Rizal, but for all the farmers in the Philippines who still face hardships every day. We vow to continue tackling important issues such as this and shed light on topics that would help us create a more equitable Asia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you both of you, and congratulations. And now, for the winner of the award for the Journalism for an Equitable Asia Award, and our first prize winner is awarded to Didem Tali of New Narrative from Myanmar. Didem, I would like to invite you to speak your remarks and say a few words for us. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I am so honored that you picked this story for this among all these really impressive work from my colleagues. I'm gonna be honest with you, as I'm accepting this award, I feel slightly guilty because, as I said, I think of these young women often, and as the situation of the world is right now, I don't know where they are. I don't know what they're doing, and this pains me, but I really appreciate the acknowledgement and the recognition of individuals like this, as well as our work as journalists. And another small remark is that unfortunately I just realized that my story went behind the paywall, but I just edit the text with Google Documents. So any of you want to read it, you can go ahead and check it. And yeah, thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing to champion the marginalized voices. And I am again so honored to be in a cohort so talented, and I think everyone is really deserving, and I just wish all the best for all of you.
Thank you, Didem, and congratulations. And congratulations to our prize winners and all of our finalists. I would now like to invite Dr. James to say congratulatory remarks to all our finalists and journalists for this year's nominations. Dr. James, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And once again, congratulations to everyone, including the prize winners. What a fantastic lineup. I mean, that's all I can say. And more importantly, the important stories that we have had. One of the things I would like to recognize is 9 out of the 10 finalists were women, and all the prize winners are women. And we had a very, very strong and important voice in the 2019 and 2020 award about stories about women, which points out, inequality and poverty affects women a great deal. So thank you very much, all of you, for lending voice to this. I would also like to take this opportunity to recognize the Merit Award winners. In addition to the 10 finalists, we also have a Merit Award, 5 Merit Award for each of the 7 countries received. Just as a reminder for all of us, we received 100 nomination for this year's award. I will also just share some details about the actual awards. This is just a token of appreciation for your hard work and putting a voice to power. The 10 finalists will each receive $1,000 each, even including those categories in which there were 2 authors. And then for the actual prizes, a single prize for each of the categories. For the third prize winner, there'll be an additional $500. For the second prize winners, there will be $750 to be jointly shared, in this case, between the 2 authors. And then for the first prize winners, $1,000 on top of your finalist prize. So once again, congratulations to all of you. Thank you for speaking truth to power about inequality and raising the issues that affect all of us, and in this year particularly about how it affected women. So thank you very much and congratulations all of you. Now over to Alicia.
Thank you, Dr. James, and congratulations again. Now I would like to invite Nipuna to the floor to talk about the nominations for 2021. Nipuna, the floor is yours for you to speak.
Thank you. I would also like to start by congratulating the journalists. It was truly inspiring reading all your stories, the top 3, the top 10. I think I read close to 50 of the submissions. They were all brilliant. And so, as Mustafa mentioned earlier as well, we want this to be a continuing space because the battle is far from over and inequality just keeps spiraling out of control. In Asia, we're grappling from the COVID pandemic, just like the rest of the world. But inequality has been a pandemic that's been plaguing us forever. Despite tremendous growth across Asia on economies, on healthcare, technology, and elsewhere, we are struggling. And as things stand, there is no end in sight. Even though there's vaccines in pipelines, most of Asia has no plans for how people will get it. To keep in mind, Asia has 4.5 billion people. And even if you got vaccines to that 5.5 billion, that's just one aspect of one dimension, which is health. And as you covered in the great work we did, we need to remember that worst hit are the people who are left behind. Those who are impoverished, daily wage workers, women, care workers, migrants, those living in congested and underserved urban areas, elderly, differently abled, refugees, and so on. Before the pandemic, we had 1.2 billion Asians struggling in or near poverty. And according to the latest estimations, 20% loss of income would push more than another 300 million more into poverty. And human progress could be reversed decades and decades back. The pandemic has not only highlighted inequalities between people, but also between countries. Many countries have paid a hefty price in lives, in economies, and social stability because they've excluded communities oftentimes. Others have fared better, and especially when they've invested in public services, healthcare, and social protection, they've been quite successful in comparison. And in recovery, we need to build up pro-poor and pro-women solutions, public services like education, and socio-economic solutions that benefit masses, especially for those communities whose lives, livelihoods, and communities are at risk. The pandemic has clearly shown that none of us can be safe in isolation. We cannot survive or thrive in isolation. Systemic change is essential to tackle this crisis and future crises, whether it's natural or man-made. Our systems must change so that we put safety and well-being of all of us as a priority. And as you've demonstrated, journalists have the skills and the influence to draw attention and action to finding solution to these problems of inequality. So with that in mind, the theme for our next cycle would be inequality crisis and the pandemic. The invitation for submissions is now open, and it will be open until the 31st of January 2021. It will be again open in Bangladesh, Myanmar, Malaysia, Pakistan, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. Journalists who are writing 2 or more articles on the theme of inequality, crisis, and the pandemic are eligible, and their articles will have to be written between 31st of January 2020 to the 31st of January 2021. For more details, in the chat box, there are the details of the Asia Centre and Oxfam web and social channels. Please do visit them. You will find more information. We again invite you to submit your work, and I'm sure the work that you've done will inspire other journalists and aspiring journalists to submit theirs too. And just so readers or others who are listening in, if you know of a journalist who's done great work, you're welcome to send the submissions to us as well. And please do share the award details with your friends, your colleagues, families, and so on. Again, thank you very much to all the journalists. Thank you very much to everyone else who's joining in as well. We hope to be having a similar event again, this time by March of next year, forbidding another crisis striking us. Thank you very much. Over to you, Ali.
Thank you, Nipuna. The floor is now open for questions from our participants who might have questions regarding next year's nominations. If you have any questions, please send in your questions in the Q&A function or chat box, and I will address it. There is one question coming in. The question is, why did Oxfam make this award?
Can I have a go at it, Mustafa, or would you
Yes.
like to go?
Yes, please.
So why did we have this award? This, like Mustafa mentioned, long time ago, this was something that was in back of our minds. But in 2018, we had a forum of journalists who convened, who write on issues of inequality. We had a convening in Bangkok. It was an idea that a journalist from Pakistan, she highlighted this idea, why don't you create an award to give recognition to journalists who cover issues of inequality? That's how it started. And then, of course, when we started discussing things with James and Asia Center, who do a lot of work on freedom of speech and civic society space, it was a perfect fit. We do think that there needs to be more discussions on issues of inequality. And it really needs to be hit home. And it needs to be hit home in language that makes sense to people. And journalists are far better than development agencies or governments or United Nations or what have you at doing that. So we really need you, and we really want to encourage you to speak more about issues of inequality. And you also have the pulse of the people. You're also on the ground, so you realize what's happening. You know what's happening, and you have immense power. We believe in your power to make change happen by highlighting the truth.
Thank you, Nipuna. There's another question coming in, and the question is, what challenges and opportunities have the pandemic posed to the journalists? For all our journalists, please feel free to answer the question.
I'm happy to have a go with this. I think in my case, and I see that with many of my colleagues, it forced us to think outside the box. And I think it's challenging media companies with, and it forces them to rethink what's important and certain hierarchies and local dynamics as well.
Thank you, Didem. Would any of the other journalists would like to answer this question too?
I think really it's a question the journalists them should come up with answers for, just because they know the situation better than we do. But please go ahead and feel free to add to the discussion.
I think that the pandemic has changed the way we cover stories, because earlier we used to go in the field and observe things, and that would add to the story. But now we have to conduct telephonic interviews, so it's not the same. So this is, I think, a challenge. This, like for instance, I had to go to talk to women in prisons, but I just couldn't do that. It was done through telephone, so it could not give the same essence to the story which I had in mind. So I think that is one of the challenges journalists all over the world are facing these days.
Thank you. I would also like to ask Dr. James if you would like to have a go at this question as well.
Thank you, Alicia. Just a couple of points pertaining to journalists and media companies. Asia Centre is currently putting together a report on COVID-19's impact on democracy and human rights. We're actually going to launch it next week, 1 week from today. And we have a chapter there on media freedoms. And there are 3 observations that we have made based on a review of primary reports on Southeast Asia. 1, there's certainly an increase of attacks against journalists during this period. 2, there are also attacks against media companies. And then 3, the sustainability, financial sustainability of media companies has become even more difficult. And several media companies have also closed down. So these are the 3 key features. And as what Banani also mentioned just earlier, that also the ways of working has changed as well, given the pandemic.
Thank you, Dr. James. It seems that we do not have any more questions. The link to for next year's nominations has been sent to our chat box for you to see. I would like now to thank you to all of our participants, to our judges, finalists, prize winners, and all who are here for attending. Please don't forget to complete our survey that we have now sent in through the chat box. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. Please also follow Asia Centre and Oxfam in Asia through our social media platforms. And we look forward to receiving the new nominations for next year, and see you next time.